Welcome to another video on our channel, where we share near-death experiences that offer hope and insight into the afterlife through the powerful stories submitted by our subscribers. If you'd like to receive notifications and never miss one of these inspiring experiences, just click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you. It's your support that encourages us to keep sharing these powerful stories. Have you had a near-death experience of your own? If you're willing to share it, we'd be honored to feature it here. You can find our email address in the description below. Now grab a drink, get comfortable, and enjoy this amazing story. I hope you will accept my military rank and rating, as I do not wish to reveal my true identity. I have no desire to gain anything from confessing this other than to have it heard as a testament of God and Jesus Christ. Corman is a third-class petty officer in the 1st Marine Division's 3rd Battalion, 7th Regiment, Alpha Company, and the Cutting Edge. I just discovered your channel today and would like to share my near-death experience with it. I pray it helps and enlightens people who hear it in a way that is genuine to their hearts. In the name of God and Jesus Christ, no one, not even my mother, has ever heard what I'm about to tell you. Why am I sharing this with you? To be honest, I am not sure, but something in my heart tells me that now is the moment. What I'm going to tell you is a comprehensive description of what occurred to my soul as it left my body after I was gravely injured in a devastating ambush by Taliban troops near Sangin, Afghanistan, in July 2010. This is an event I have refused to talk about since it happened to anyone, because it was simply too dramatic. Well, I can't talk about this without getting extremely emotional in person. With anyone, I'm even having a rough time typing it here, but I can pace myself typing it, and I'm going to continue with an intent to finish. I guess I'll start from the beginning of what led to this experience. Boot camp, more specifically, Navy boot camp. I wanted to work in the medical field, and at the end, I boarded a bus to Illinois and spent Christmas in Navy basic training. RDCs, what the Navy calls drill sergeants, yelled my ear off for weeks. After that, it was months in a school which at the time was right across the street from boot camp for Hospital Corpsman. And since I was an FMF corpsman, I had to go train with the Marine Corps near San Diego, California. After my lovely winter training, the Marine Corps does not have of their own medics. The Navy provides the Marines their combat medics, and that's what a Fleet Marine Force hospital in Corpsman is. I am proud to be. Doc, I'm proud of my rate, as it is the most decorated rate in all the branches that serve the hospital. Corpsman has the most Medal of Honors. I was trained to be the guy that jumped on the grenade that comes into the hole. The guy who runs out into machine gun fire to pull his wounded comrade out of the line of fire. The Navy trained me to be proud to be able to do such actions for my squad, a very brainwashed individual. Satanic determinism at its best, indeed. A proud warrior for the Serpent's Nation, which I did not know at the time. Wasn't my first rodeo serving the Serpent's Nation as a soldier. There's not much to say about war. All of them are worthless. It wasn't like Vietnam or World War. People have to understand, Afghanistan was different. Not to say it was less deadly than other wars, but the way we fought the war was something else entirely. It was basically U.S. soldiers patrolling desert swamps in southern Afghanistan, getting blown up by IEDs and getting shot at every day. We had the occasional victory via the Air Force or Predator drone, Hellfire, missile, revenge. But those weren't as often as people think. Sometimes more shooting, sometimes less. Sometimes no shooting. But no shooting was the scariest because it usually meant an RPG, or worse, a planned attack, A trap was on the horizon. We didn't like long silences. The eeriness brought death. And even though no Marines died on my watch, I will say, I never expected that I would be the one knocking on death's door out of everyone in my squad. I was definitely the most cautious one. Don't get me wrong, I was right there in the thick of it with my brothers. But I was no marksman. I was there to save lives as a man of God. That's what I wanted to do. But I also believed the patriotic, empowering lies that were told to us all during those times. I should have realized then the enemy was domestic, not foreign. It was a hot summer day. July 14th, I'll never forget it. Woke up lost chest. To my buddy ate breakfast, had a minute baby, wipe, shower, and went on patrol. It had to have been close to 100 degrees by 10 a.m. We were in the wetlands near Sangan around midday, completing our patrol while going through this very muddy terrain. All of a sudden, bullets started whizzing by us, and so we dove to the ground for cover. My firing squad began immediate suppressive fire after accessing the enemy's location, and I was checking to see if anyone was hit by the initial shots. As we all retreated to a nearby wall, everyone reported in as being okay. We were pinned down on this wall. AKs plus a PK machine gun raining fire down on us from a hillside we thought Bravo had cleared the previous day. Long story short, we think the Taliban got lucky and somehow scouted Bravo going through there and clearing the area without alerting them, and thus used that opportunity to launch this surprise attack on us. There were at least 5 or 6 of them in 2 groups, and we didn't know this at the time. We thought it was just one group of guys. The group that was shooting at us was a decoy. The other group was quickly moving into position to triang at us, sitting ducks on the wall. I told you we retreated too, and even worse, they got into position to do just that, without any of us realizing it till it was too late. When I got shot, I didn't hear anything till after I hit the ground. The deafening, ringing sound, the first hit, was to my chest. It knocked my wind out, even made me black out for a second. I felt a second bullet enter my left leg. I felt a third strike my left arm. I felt a fourth strike my chest again, this time on the left side. This one made me black out again. For seconds more, I then hit the ground, and I remember the taste of blood filled my mouth. While going in and out of consciousness, laying on the ground, I remember I started having trouble breathing. I remember my guys yelling that I was hit, and I felt being dragged by them to cover by this tree that was near the wall. The pain, at this point, was gone, and I was hovering over my own body, floating in the air. I watched the fight rage on, and as I'm watching them, holding pressure on my wounds, applying a tourniquet to my leg, calling in air support and fighting with all their might, this feeling of peace overwhelms me. I began to fly into the air all the way into space. At this point, I realized I didn't care about Earth anymore. I didn't care about dying in the war or anything. I was just content. I suddenly saw a light, a tunnel portal. Something like that opened up with blinding light, but not blinding like the sun, where I couldn't look into it. And as soon as I did, I was taken by it. Quickly, I was now in what looked like a wormhole. There was no sound, even though I focused on the darkness. And I saw a pit, a deep dark hole, and I could see what looked like a small glow from fire emanating from it. I could hear faint screams, and as I began to move towards it out of curiosity to look down it, I suddenly felt a force stop me and heard a voice say, "You don't want to go there." I came to a halt, looked down, and realized I was on the very edge of the most luscious green grass you could imagine, and the grass was fading into yellow, then brown. Then it looked scorched as it got closer to that massive hole, or trench, I should say, that I was heading towards. It was like the Bible says an abyss, and everything around it was darkness. Ash and dirt, contrary to that, towards the light was the most vibrant colors, and could see the kingdom Jesus spoke of. It was blurred to me, though I could see it was there, but I could not see in detail what was happening inside the kingdom, or who was there, or anything of that sort in that moment. I instantly knew I was not allowed into heaven either. Not at this time. Then the voice came back and said, "It's almost time to go back. Are you ready?" And this time, the voice appeared before me. As a man, it emerged out of nothing into pure light and formed a humanoid figure right before my sight. I instantly knew it was Jesus. I proclaimed, "Jesus, my Lord," and I had the thought of falling to my knees. And as I thought of that, he instantly replied, "Yes, it is. I please stand," in the most witty, yet understanding voice. He then said, "I'm going to show you something before you go, and I want you to tell everyone on earth what I show you." I then began flooding him with questions because this communication that was happening between us wasn't with words from our mouths, but rather words from our minds. He didn't answer any of them. He just said in a very calm, gentle voice, "Watch." He then disappeared, and the place I was at suddenly transformed. I realized I was suddenly back here on Earth. Not only that, I took a breath. I looked down and saw I was in my body, but I wasn't back in the war. No, I looked around and saw was on Earth, but something was different. I pinched my cheek. I felt pain. Yes, I was indeed alive. I reassured this several times. In that moment, there's no doubt in my mind. I had been reborn. I had been resurrected. I knew it in my heart. I then looked to the sky and heard trumpets and other horn instruments. I see the sky crack open, and it's that same tunnel I traveled in after being shot, emitting light, opening over the entire Earth. I then notice I'm surrounded by other people in unison, and we are all lifted slightly into the air, floating about T off the ground. Together we cannot control our body movement, and we all start facing the opening in the sky. I begin to see what I think are shooting stars shoot out of the light tunnel towards Earth. They go to the Earth. Then after they hit the Earth, I saw them shoot back, straight up, a beam of pure white light, straight back into that portal or tunnel or whatever. No angel is coming for me. What about me? Am I going to be left behind? And as soon as I thought that, we all turned around in unison, still floating helplessly, slightly above the ground, and saw demons eating people down the street. My house was on a horde of demons, just running at the people who couldn't move. The poor victims were floating too, and the demons devoured the people's flesh alive. I suddenly felt a grave terror come over me, because I too was helpless to move away from them. The demons literally looked like the Egyptian gods we see painted on the walls. In Egypt, half man, half predator beast, they were being led by their masters, the fallen angels, and I saw these demonic hordes being led by what our government is calling UAPs, or what people call them UFOs in the sky. And they were eating people alive, countless hordes of them. It was horrific. But I also saw angels coming down unto these demons and slaying them with their swords of fire. I noticed that the angels had weapons of technology. I noticed that it wasn't an actual sword. They were striking the demons with, no, it was shaped like a stretched-out diamond, and it protruded from their shiny gauntlets. It was almost transparent, not made of metal for sure, but rather looked more like a hologram from a Star Wars movie. Every angel had 2 of these weapons, one on each gauntlet, and as they would strike the demons, with this diamond-looking weapon a laser would emit from their armor and incinerate the demons, turn them straight into ash. The angels would strike demons, and the UFOs would move away at incredible speeds. as if they were scared of the angels. I know it was some form of technology, but it was so advanced that it looked like literal magic. I then began to realize the demon horde is coming closer and closer to my position, and I'm still floating slightly above the ground in unison with countless other people. And as the demons get closer to us, I can hear the screams of other people nearby who can't move, but are being eaten alive. I then heard a very loud voice pronounce "Apus," which could be heard across the entire earth. At that point, it felt as if time had frozen. The oncoming monsters slowed, the screams of terror ceased, and the entire universe appeared to take its breath. The earth under us trembled, and the sky, once filled with mayhem, now reverberated with an awful silence from the heavens. A brilliant light began to shine, brighter than anything I had ever seen. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart. And from this tiar, a magnificent figure began to descend. It was Jesus, but not as I had seen him before. He was adorned in radiant armor with a crown of pure gold that sparkled with gemstones of every color. His eyes were like blazing fire, and his voice, though gentle, carried an authority that was undeniable. Ibo, children of earth, the time of reckoning has come. Those who have chosen the path of righteousness, come with me. Those who have turned away, face the consequences of your choices. As he spoke, the angels began to gather around him, forming a protective barrier. They began to lift those who had been faithful, those who had repented and accepted him, into the air, drawing them closer to the light. The feeling was indescribable, a mixture of joy, peace, and overwhelming love. But for those who had turned away, the scene was vastly different. The demons, once paused, now resumed their rampage with increased ferocity. The fallen angels, leading the demonic hordes, unleashed chaos and ruin upon the earth. The very ground broke apart, swallowing entire towns, and the sky went black with ash and smoke. I watched in horror as those left behind faced the wrath of the fallen, but amidst the chaos, there were moments of hope. I saw individuals, even in the face of certain death, calling out to Jesus, repenting for their sins, and being lifted up by angels to join the saved. The battle raged on, but it was clear that the victory belonged to Jesus. With every demon and fallen angel defeated, the earth began to transform. The darkness seated, replaced by a brilliant light. The scorched land, a new heaven and a new earth. Those who had been saved were now living in a paradise where sorrow, pain, and death were no more. I found myself standing before Jesus. Once more, he looked at me with those piercing eyes and said, "Go and tell the world what you have witnessed. Let them know that I am coming soon, and they must choose their path." With that, I was back in the hospital room, the beeping of machines and the murmur of voices filling my ears. The weight of everything I had gone through bore hard on my heart, and I realized I had been given a second chance, not just at life, but also to spread the gospel of hope and redemption over the world.